Hi everyone, my name is Winnie,
My name is Vivien.
and you're watching ANAH X Gallery Series second episode, hosted by the two of us. We are honored to have Rebecca Fons, the director of Siskel Film Center, with us today. Siskel Film Center is a program of the Art Institute of School of the Art Institute of Chicago that has been an important platform for international, independent, and classic cinema in Chicago since 1972. Through film screenings, annual festivals, and public programming, the Film Center celebrates diverse voices in the cinema community and the restoration and revival of essential works. It also facilitates dialogues that sets films in historical and cultural context through panels, lectures, and filmmaker conversations. So here we are to welcome Rebecca to give.
Thank you. Yeah, it's my pleasure to be here talking to you and also to be the director of programming here at the Film Center. I've been here a little bit over a year. I joined the team in early 2021, and the Film Center is a pretty a vital cultural institution here in the city. My background is always been in film exhibition. I studied film as an undergraduate at the University of Iowa, and then moved to Chicago to study or get my master's degree in arts business. So I got sort of a business degree, but from an art perspective, at Columbia College Chicago. Following that, I worked at the Chicago International Film Festival for about 10 years. I was the director of education. So I did all the programs with students, from very young students to college students, and even teachers. And then I left my role at the film festival to rehabilitate the historic movie theater in my hometown, which is a really tiny town in Iowa called Winterset, Iowa. So I worked with choosing carpet and what popcorn machine we were going to get, and also programming films, and I'm still really involved with that project. And then after that, I programmed at a art house cinema in Iowa City, Iowa. I've never left Chicago, but I did a lot of driving around the Midwest. And that space is called Film Scene. So I programmed for a 5-screen cinema there. It's about 3 hours west of Chicago. And then returned to Chicago full time to join the Film Center team, like I said, in early 2021. So I've always been focused on and dedicated to the world of film exhibition and thinking about audiences and film and film exhibition as a catalyst for conversation, for dialogue, for learning, for entertainment, all of those things that we know art houses like the Film Center here in Chicago do. So it's my pleasure to be here. I've been involved in the Film Center for years as a member of their community council, and obviously was a loyal patron. I've seen many films here before I was an employee. But now we're in a really interesting time, celebrating our 50th year here at the Film Center, and just kind of thinking about our history and thinking about the future, and also navigating a really kind of challenging time for cinemas. So it's a pleasure to talk to you about all of those things.
How do you select and then arrange dates for film streaming in Siskel? And then what is the process of film acquisition and then film archival here as well?
That's a great question. Programming for a space like the Film Center it's a really fun puzzle. And it's imagine doing a puzzle, and the picture that is the puzzle is changing all the time, and the border is changing all the time, and you're just sort of constantly moving pieces around. So there's that kind of logistical challenge of, we have 2 screens, we have 7 days a week, we have a mix of films that are new release films. So we have Drive My Car playing right now, which is the Japanese film we've had for 11 weeks now. It's amazing if you haven't had a chance to see it yet. And we have the Oscar nominated short films that we're opening on the day that we're recording this. So we have these new films that are coming out, and we're paying attention to the release schedule and kind of how they're performing or how they're predicted to perform. And then alongside those new films, we're playing restorations or retrospectives of a particular filmmaker. We did a Fellini retrospective when we reopened after being closed due to COVID. And then we also do themed series. Like we're just wrapping up a series called Bad Romance, which is all love stories that are sort of like toxic love and like crazy love and bad love kind of. So we do a lot of that kind of like specialty programming alongside the new releases. And then even more specialty, we host series called like Conversations at the Edge, which is a SAIC program, which is more experimental and kind of like tactile, multimedia and interdisciplinary screenings. And then we have big special events. We have like a summer, usually in June, we have a gala where we honor a very famous person. And we have special screenings and festivals like the European Union Film Festival, the Black Harvest Film Festival. So you can see it's constantly a balance of, what films do we need to program that people want to come see and that they're excited to see? How do we balance that with our history as an art house where we are discovering new voices and celebrating established voices? Who are our cultural partners that we're hosting events for? Again, and it's only 2 screens. So it's like constantly sort of like, well, we could fit this here, but that means we can't do this screening. When is a time of the year where it's kind of quiet? So we could do a specialty screening because the new releases really aren't as kind of popular or as plentiful. And then once we kind of lock that puzzle, the acquisition of the films to that question is working with the relationships that we have or the distributors we have relationships with. So there's distributors like, everybody knows like Warner Brothers and Universal. We do a lot of programming of old repertory films with them. And then there are the art house kind of smaller boutique distributors like Neon and A24 and Kino Lorber and Janus Films. So I've got all those people on my speed dial and I talk to them via email and on the phone. And it's just a constant kind of conversation about what's coming up, what are they looking for in Chicago? And what are we looking for? And sometimes I'm breaking hearts because I'm saying like, I love this film, but I just don't have room. There's no room in the puzzle. I can't do it. So it's conversations and relationships that are really, really important. So, and negotiating fees and things like that, and trying to get films on 35 millimeter versus digital. Like there's some of that like actual format and financial pieces of it too. Yeah, and it's a real balance. I mean, some audiences, they'll come to both of those. They'll come see the new Wes Anderson film and then the Fellini film or the classic film that we're showing. And some people are like, I don't want anything to do with Wes Anderson. Like it's a new film, like, I don't like it. And vice versa. Someone might go to Wes Anderson and be like, I'm not into Fellini. Like, this isn't my thing. I just want to see the newer films. So my role is really to try to find that balance. Because, we ultimately need people to come see these movies. So if I show just like, a series of films that no one's ever heard of from the 1940s, like I might really love those films, but we actually do need to sell tickets and invite new audience members and introduce the space to new people, as well as, really answering and speaking to our like loyal patrons who've been coming to the Film Center for 50 years. So it's like a balance and sort of making sure we always have something on screen that appeals to all of those audiences.
Nice. There's a membership in Cisco, right?
Yeah, there's a membership. Yep. There's different levels of membership, and it's an amazing deal actually. And I'm not just saying that to like sell the membership. It's like our ticket prices, if you're just a general audience member, they're $12. But if you're a member, they're $8. $6. Sorry, it's half off. So it's like you get tickets in advance for some things, and it's half the price of the regular ticket price. And I think our membership started like $60 a year. So you end up saving, if you come to the Film Center a lot and you want to become a member, it's a huge money saver. So, and there's perks and stuff. So.
Wow, even I'm like tempted right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And also
this interview I'm going to get.
Yeah. And students, SAIC students, and often other colleges in Chicago get special deals. And we have screenings that are like just $5. We do a late night series called Fringe Benefits. That's just $5. Sometimes we do screenings that are more expensive, special events, but it's interesting. Vivien, you were saying like, you love watching movies on the weekend. Like everybody loves watching movies and movie going it is often like art, experiencing art can be seen as sort of like elite, or kind of like, it's, you have to, have a ton of money to experience it, which may be true. Like if you go to the opera, I don't know how much the opera costs, and I'm not like anti-opera, but it's like,
Like
it's a more
100.
expensive ticket. Yeah, it's like $100. So movies are very accessible. They're accessible, financially accessible. Cinemas are all around the city, luckily. So it's a great, it's sort of like it's the art for everyone, which is great.
That's super well said. Remember that you mentioned how running this whole center feels like solving a puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering what's your view on like how is this film center having an impact on the Chicago's film industry,
Mm-hmm.
which I would say it's a bigger puzzle. How do you
Mm-hmm.
like solve within it and also just fit into that the bigger picture?
Yeah. I mean, I think the film center is a really critical part of the city's present, but also our history, our past. Like I said, the film center has been here for 50 years, and in those 50 years, we've been a leader, both in the films that we've shown and the new filmmakers that we introduced to audiences, to American audiences, to Chicago audiences, to student audiences. We've also been on the cutting edge of technology. When there's 4K projection is like the crispest, it's sort of the Rolls Royce of projection. We were the first cinema in the country to install 4K projection in our projection booth. So it's like things like that. Like, we've had filmmakers who are now, big time international names who came to the United States for the first time at the Film Center. And we're really, really proud of that. So there's that history that we have contributed to. And then in terms of the present day, I think, cinema is for everybody, as I said. And I think, we are part of the puzzle that speaks to those classic films, those art house films. Oftentimes we are showing films that are literally not playing anywhere else in the state of Illinois. Like we're, certainly not in the city, and not anywhere in driving distance. And we're really proud of that. I mean, I wish those films were everywhere, but they might be a smaller film, or they might be a film that's just, really, really limited. So yes, sometimes we have like French Dispatch, or we have, other films that are playing elsewhere in the city, but always we have films that are not playing anywhere else. And that's really important, because if we only consume, Spider-Man and, Marvel movies, which I really enjoy. I mean, I went and saw Spider-Man opening weekend, the most recent one, and had a blast. But if we only have like a steady diet of those kind of foods, like what are we missing as humanity? Like, what are we not seeing? What are we not exploring? Whose voices are we not hearing? So I like to think that we provide another option, and we often provide films that are maybe a little less known, but really, really important to understanding culture, understanding other cultures, other voices, learning about yourself through what you're seeing on the screen, seeing yourself represented on the screen. So that's really, really important to us. And also we like to be a good balance with our friends over at the Music Box Theater on Southport, Facets on Fullerton. We're really, really proud to be in a city that has a lot of really great cinema.
With that being said, we also have some questions regarding how the film center adjusts to the pandemic. Like, how would, if you would like to, we can talk about like what changes were being made, or like if there's any financial decisions or like any artistic decisions that has to be made for this challenging times.
Yes to all of that. That's been, COVID, it's been hard on all of us for so many reasons, individual and collective reasons. For movie theaters, as you both likely know, like they all closed, everybody closed temporarily. I'm part of a community of cinemas, cinema operators and programmers. And we were on a big Zoom, like in March 2020. And the person who was leading the Zoom was like, is anybody open? Like, is anybody still open who's on this call? And there were like 300 people on the call and no one was open. They were like, unmute yourself and let us know if you're open. And literally no one was open. I think that's like the first time I kind of cried because it was really, so intense to realize that like literally every screen was dark. And the Gene Siskel Film Center was no exception. We closed in March of 2020 and we were closed for 17 months, which is a really long time. We reopened August 6th of 2021. So, during that time, there were layoffs. A huge portion of the staff was laid off, which was really hard. Some of them came back, front of house staff and administrative staff have come back. And what happened was, without the ability to bring people to the theater, we had no way to connect with audiences. But, pretty quickly, we worked with distributors who were offering their films for streaming. And this wasn't like the big distributors. These were those smaller art house distributors that we work with who recognized that we wanted to still engage with our audiences, even if it was, on computer screens and televisions. And so we started programming films virtually, pretty quickly. In the spring of 2020, we started doing that and offering it to people at home. And then we also did like a virtual lecture series called Talking Pictures, where we welcomed Jennifer Reeder, who's a filmmaker and a teacher here in the city, John Sayles, who's a filmmaker. And we had, anywhere from 3 weeks long to 8-week long series about particular eras of film or decades or regions of film. So we found creative ways to kind of connect with audience members, but it's really hard. I mean, if we have a theater downstairs that's just under 200 seats, so, we can fill that regularly. Whereas these virtual films, like 10 people would watch it, 11, sometimes like 3. And we celebrated that. We celebrated when like 20 people watched a film. We were like popping champagne because it was like popping cheap champagne because it was like, yay, we did it. But it doesn't hold a candle really. It's not what we do. The whole point is to bring people together in a room, dim the lights and show them a film on the big screen. So it was really, really hard. And then reopening was hard in a different way because we reopened and it was like masks, we still require masks, mask requirement. Now there's a vaccine requirement, even with this, though, when we're recording this, it's right before the city is lifting the mask mandate, but we're keeping the mask mandate because we're part of SAIC and that mask mandate is staying in place. So, we were at 50% capacity, I think, when we reopened, and we're just now going up to 100% capacity. So that's all really hard because it just, it means that we're kind of policing all that stuff, which is not something we've normally had to do. We're not selling concessions, which is, I know a lot of people kind of can't go to the movies without popcorn and candy. And then we've also, that's hard, but then we also have patrons who just aren't comfortable coming back, even with masks and limited seating and distance seating. Like they're just, they're immunocompromised or they're elderly and they're just like, I can't do it. So we've continued to offer virtual programming, fewer titles, like 2 to 3 at a time. And people are still engaging with those, but it's been hard. And then also like films, the film release calendar, all of our distributors, I'm sure you saw like movies would move on the calendar. They were going to be released this time. And then they got bumped, 3 months later or 4 months later. So not only was our connection to the audience kind of challenged, but also our like product, I hate to call film product, but like the product that we get was like a supply chain issue, so it's been really hard, but we've just tried to stay creative and nimble and flexible and patient with one another and with our audience and with ourselves. But it's really hard. And the film industry, there are a lot of headlines about like, is this the end of movie theaters? How are they going to survive? And I will note that spaces like the Gene Siskel Film Center and like independent or nonprofit cinemas like us, we have survived far better than like the multiplexes. Like imagine we had 2 screens that were dark. Imagine if you're the AMC River East and you have 21 screens that are dark and you have like 100 staff members. Like, so we were we're smaller, so we're able to be a little bit more, nimble and kind of move with what's coming at us. Whereas these big cinemas had a really hard time, and they're surviving too. But it's like, we're all kind of trying to make it work, but some of us have had a harder go of it than others. So, and I don't think cinemas, are going to die, or, a lot of them did close, but, we all love going to the movies. It's like we said, like people love going to the movies, families, date night, classic cinema or Marvel movies. We do it because it's fun, and it provides us that joy that we were talking about.
For people who like us, we like to go to the movies, but there are also maybe fellow students who are eager to join the industry and become a part of this center. Then, like, what is your advice for them, like studying film or like interested in working in independent film centers like this?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll say the first thing is, when I was younger and I was going to film school I was going to college for film studies, and I wasn't studying film production. So I really was just studying film analysis and critical reading of film. And my mom was like, oh no, like, you're never going to get a job in that field. Like, what does that even mean? She was incredibly supportive, but like, she was worried, because she was like, what are the jobs in like film studies, like besides like a critic, like being a film critic. And so I would encourage students that are interested in film exhibition to really learn about it, by attending art house cinemas and studying the history of spaces like the Film Center and all of the art houses in the country. I mean, Film Forum in New York, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, which is a little bit newer, they have a Cinematheque, Film at Lincoln Center in New York, the Belcourt in Nashville, Tennessee, the Hollywood Theater in Texas. I can't remember where they're at. The Coolidge out of Boston. I mean, there's all these really great cinemas that they can show to their parents and say, there's all these jobs. It's not just film programming. It's not just film criticism. There's, you can be an executive director, you can be an operations manager, you can be an event coordinator, an education and outreach, manager. There's so much that goes into us showing films at the Film Center. There's so many jobs, there's so many roles. So that's the first thing, is like, don't be discouraged, because it might seem like, unless you're going to be an academic or a film critic, like there's really kind of no, opportunities. But there are thousands of film exhibitors in the country, and people who work at cinemas. So there's that part of it. But I would say, really go to these spaces and find the art house cinema near you, or the independent cinema, and reach out to them and do some volunteering. Most of these places are nonprofits, so we always love to have volunteers, and see if you can tear tickets, because it usually means you get a free ticket to the movie. And so you should be in those spaces and volunteer, if you can, and just watch movies and talk to the programmers, and, say, why did you program this movie and not that movie? And how, these questions you're asking me, like, how do you choose? And why is this at 7:00 and not 7:30? Like, there's all these little decisions that go into each film that we present. And most film programmers like myself, as you can tell, like, really love talking about it. And it's something that I'm really proud of, and I'm proud of the work that we do. So I would encourage students to not be shy, and to go to those spaces as a patron, as an audience member, but also see if there's opportunities to volunteer and learn. And then also get on, this is a small thing, but like, get on all the newsletters for these places, like, so you can get a weekly newsletter. It seems silly, but I do it. So I get a newsletter every week from like Film Forum and the Belcourt, because it gives me ideas, and it also encourages me to, think about what other people are doing. And then also say like, hey, Film Forum, how did that go? Like, did people come? Was it successful? Did you find this film was more successful than that? Because, again, it's about selling tickets. It's about the film, and it's about the work and the art, but it's also like pretty important to sell tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So I get those newsletters, and it gives me ideas. And sometimes I think, oh man, that's so smart. Like, why didn't I think about that? But it encourages me to think more creatively and to push myself. So I would encourage just, learning and going to films and talking to the people who program them, because like at the AMC, someone programs what goes on those films. Like they're in an office somewhere, probably not in Chicago. I don't know for sure, but like someone programs like all the Midwest AMCs and like all of the like East Coast. But whereas me, like I'm literally above the theater right now. I'm on State Street. Like it's right there. It's right below my feet. So, it's like I live here. So come talk to us and ask us about what we do, because we're really, really proud of what we do. So, and that's art houses, there's that personal touch. We aren't anonymous. You can find my email on our website. Like, you can follow me on Instagram. Like I'm a person that you can get to know. And in turn, like I love talking to audience members, because I don't program these films just for me. Some of them I program just because I love them and I hope other people do, but I program films for the audience. I'm always thinking about the audience every day. Every decision I make, it's me thinking about those patrons who buy a ticket and climb the stairs or take the elevator up and sit and choose their seat. So I love talking to them and learning what they've liked and disliked and learning and changing based on those interactions.
Gene Siskel Film Center's website and program content are linked down below in the description. Thanks, Rebecca, for coming today. And we thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank you too.
Thank you.